What's up guys, welcome to Vintage Genetics, where it is all about classic bodybuilding. And today will be an epic, old school chest workout. I am about 6 weeks removed from my pro debut in America. So 6 weeks until I'll be standing next to classic physique pro athletes. So this is the first time that I will competing with actual athletes that have already proven themselves to be very good. That's why they're pro. So I will have to train very hard. I wasn't already training hard, but even harder to focus on my weak points and to make my strong points even stronger. But anyway guys, we start out with the bench press, and as you saw, the very first set, I called it set number 1, was already 90 kilograms, but always keep in mind that before doing the bench press, before going heavy on the bench press, I always do 2 to 3 warm-up sets to get used to the movement, making all the muscles make the connection. Oh, this is the movement we're going to do, this is the collaboration in between the muscles that needs to happen, and this is the blood flow that needs to be in the muscles, and that way you prevent injury, you guys. I have heard so many stories, and I've said this before, of good bodybuilders messing up their chest by tearing it completely off or getting half a tear, but it will always show on your chest, and you will not be able to be symmetrical anymore, and that is something I surely want to prevent. So yes, in the end, I do go pretty heavy, but I don't go heavy right at the beginning. That's why I do a lot of sets in general, but also a lot of sets as a warm-up beforehand. For example, this is set number 4, and officially it'll be set number 7 already. So I have already done a lot of reps. There's a good pump in my chest already, so it is much less inclined to be injured. And of course, when doing the bench press, you always go all the way down, pretty slow, control the weight, and then don't bounce it off your chest, but do touch your chest with the bar, and then explode on the way up for maximum hypertrophy in the chest. And also something, you guys, a lot of people have shoulder injuries or nagging shoulder problems, just nagging pains in there, the tendons being too tight, and this is why I do these stretches. I actually learned this from a physiotherapist when I had a shoulder injury myself, well, not really an injury, just a nagging pain, and he showed me on an x-ray scan that there was a lot of irritation near my tendons, and that's because they were very tight. So with this very stretch right here, you actually stretch out the tendons in such a way that you will be able to train without the pain. So, additionally, you should train your rear delts as well. For me, they are very developed, as I have trained them a lot over the past couple of years. So the balance in between the front delt and the rear delt must be there. So none of the parts of your shoulders are pulling harder on the joint compared to the other. It has to be balanced to prevent injury. And I have a special video on this on my channel called Shoulder Fix. If you want to prevent your shoulders from getting injured, and that is a stretch you should definitely do. And now we move on to the very last and heaviest set of today, 170 kilograms, and even with the previous set, I needed a spotter, so my brother Kane is spotting me right here, and that is very important, especially when you see what I'm about to do, when I'm about to fail this set. So this very rep will be the last rep, and then I'll be doing slow negatives, because when doing negatives, the muscles are actually more damaged than doing a positive rep. So squeezing out a couple more negative reps really does help damage your muscle even more, and will cause a greater reaction for muscle growth. The bench press is an exercise that really works the entire chest, but we also want to put different angles in the workout, such as an incline angle to work the upper chest. Bodybuilding is all about working the muscles from different angles, so you get a complete muscle development. If you would only stick to bench press, you will not get the full muscle development compared to actually doing exercises like an incline, a decline, a fly, etc. So right here we're doing an incline chest press, and the most important part here is that you are able to stretch and fully contract. On the bench press it is very difficult to fully contract the chest, but if you look at my pecs right there, they are contracting fully. And the reasoning for that is that this machine, if you look at the handles, they actually move inwards when I press upwards, and that actually mimics the movement of the chest. If they wouldn't move inwards, it would be very difficult to contract the chest. And this is, by the way, the new pair of Vintage Genetics shoes, which you can get on vintagegenetics.com. But then again, the stretch is also very important on this exercise. Stretch all the way down as far as you can, causing those nasty stretch marks, but they are proof that you have been bodybuilding the right way. Those are the only scars that I like to have, as it proves your progression. And this is my current shape right now. In the morning I weigh about 113 to 114 kilograms. And as you can see, I can lose quite a lot of water and fat weight still. I'm allowed to weigh 112 kilograms on stage. So actually in about 6 weeks I don't think I will hit that 112 mark yet, because I weighed 108 kilograms on stage in March, only a couple of months ago. So I literally have to gain 4 kilograms, round about 10 pounds of muscle in a few months, which is very difficult to do, even with a rebound. But here you can literally see the stretch, the fibers of the upper chest and the contraction at the same time. So that is proof that I'm doing it the way that I'm explaining it, which is very important to get a very full chest. As you can see right there, a lot of people have good lower chests, but the upper chest is lacking, and exercises like this, making a full contraction, really helps fill out that part. And speaking of filling out the muscles of the chest, a lot of people ask me, how do I train the inner part of the chest? Well, that is impossible to isolate. As you saw in the previous little clip of me doing that incline press, you can see that the muscle fibers are going from left to right and there is nothing in between. So no matter what exercise you do, you will always contract the outside and the inside no matter what you try. But doing cable flies like this and doing exercises from different angles, like I said as well, you will be able to fill out the chest, because I have a feeling that most people who ask me to train the inner chest, you know, the inner portion of the chest, they simply want a fuller chest, and the only way to do that is doing exercises like this. But guys, the main difference between a lot of people and the way that I like to do an exercise is you really have to go through the full range of motion and even look at the contraction. When I contract the muscle, I don't only contract it, but I make sure to put my mind into it and contract it as hard as possible. Really feel the pain in the contraction. That is the only way to really get that muscle quality, that muscle density to appear in the muscles. And that is my honest opinion, as I've been training like that for many years, and is simply showing in my physique. Finally, especially when I get really conditioned on stage, you can see the density of the muscle because of the way that I've been training. And other people who are bigger than me, they, throw around a lot of weight, a lot of big weights, but they don't look very dense, but they look very blown up, and that is a difference. So I like to rely on training the old school way of growing. I've always done this sport because I loved to train, I love to feel the muscle, I love to get a good pump, and the best way to do so is to really make yourself suffer. Don't focus too much on the weight, but focus on how the muscle feels. Focus on what way you can achieve full range of motion with maximum stretch and contraction, and then push a weight that is applicable with that motion. But anyway guys, as you see right here, it looks pretty weird. I'm doing an Incline Skullcrusher, which is an old school exercise, but I'm using a technique to really enhance the development in my triceps. So, as you guys know, at least you guys who have been following me for a while, my triceps are a weak point compared to the biceps. and I have always thought it was, dependent on the exercises that I did, the rep range that I did, but it could also very well be the way that I've been doing certain exercises that work the long head, because I find it really difficult to keep together the elbows. So when I do a skull crusher, the elbows are pushing apart very wide. So I really try to find a way to keep my elbows closer together and to force the stretch on the long head to be different from usual, because if your elbows are closer together, the stretch and the contraction will be different. If you look at my triceps right now, you can see that they contract the entire time, and it really does feel different. The thing that is around my arm is actually a slingshot meant to actually, for powerlifters to be able to bench press a lot more, but I'm using it for this very, application for my triceps, and it really does work. I really do feel a difference, and I'm also using it on an exercise like this, because every single time that I'm trying to do an underhand exercise or an exercise for the long head, my elbows push apart too far, and it really makes it difficult to really feel those triceps stretch and contract properly. Even though I am going full range of motion, I'm really putting my mind into the muscle, I'm almost physically unable to keep my elbows together. So I need a tool like this just to try if it really does affect my tricep development. So I will be the guinea pig to see if it works. But, if you think about it logically and the way it feels for me, it might really work. Because for tall people with really long arms, it is simply difficult to keep your arms together on most of these exercises. So that's why I'm trying it out like this. And then we're going to do as a final exercise a unilateral rope pushdown. This is more for the entire triceps, but also for the short head of the triceps, because that is actually the part of the triceps that will make your arm look wider from the front view. It actually will give your arm a 3D effect, a high quality effect. So that is something you should always keep in mind when training triceps, to not forget any of the three heads of the triceps. That's why it's called a triceps, because there are three heads of those muscles. And here you can see the contraction of the triceps. I'm getting, quite lean. When you can see the striations in the triceps, that means that I'm going on the right path, and I'm just super excited for the competition in about 6 weeks. Really excited to see who will show up to join the competition, but I will simply do my very best to represent classic physique at its finest. And this exercise is simply to finish off the triceps, to really get a nice stretch and a good pump. And I want to thank you for watching, and do not forget to stay golden.